Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on a little bell on the side. So once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one of getting all the insight. Now in this video, I've actually received a request from one of our viewer in regards to provide a more detailed explanation about skill assessment on the occupation of medical lab scientist. So I thought I have done it before, but when I look into all my videos, I noticed I haven't done it, so might as well I just get it done today. And I think there are a couple more other occupation related to medical personnel, which I will then further to have more video in regards to all these different type of occupations. So today in this video, we're gonna talk about medical lab scientists, which is a very popular occupation and discipline that a lot of people actually study. So instead of becoming a doctor, why don't you feel more likely to actually work in the lab? But obviously due to the 2020 that we have been through pandemic, there's a lot of lab scientists required for in this type of occupation. So let's jump into it and have a look what it's like. So obviously, the Skill Assessing Authority is Australian Institute of Medical and Clinical Scientists that you actually see it on the screen right now. If you cannot find it, pretty easy. All you need to do, the acronym is AIMS, A-I-M-S. That's pretty easy to remember. So it's A, capital A for Australia, and Institute, I-M Medical, and S for as a scientist. So what does it say here? Now AIMS now accepting email. So it looks like what they did before, they cannot accept email. They require everything to be posted. Now that's pretty bad, but good as well after we having experience of the virus situation that everybody has experiencing with at the moment. So make sure that the documentation is in color and has to be a minimum resolution of 300 dpi. Now I've been experiencing with some client, they sent us with something like 3,000 or 30,000 dpi, huge image, very precise, and you can possibly magnify into a huge the resolution. Now that's not what we need. Things require to be actually very clear. So when we print it out in an A4 page, it's actually color and clear. That's all it requires. So it doesn't have to be something that has we need to go through in a huge print in a humongous A1 size paper. No, it doesn't require to be like that. So make sure it at least 300 dpi, because lower than that you can actually the detail of the scan will be blurry, can't see things. So the following scan will not be accepted. Copy that in complete missing parts. So no header, no footer. Copy of photographs. So some people try to use their iPhone and snap the photo and send it over. No, they cannot accept that. Black and white, no. Low resolution, no. Copies of copies. Gosh, how do they know that's a copy of copy? Now, basically, copy as a copy will show that the copy has a stamp say this is a copy, and then the copy again, so it becomes copies of copies. Anyway, screenshots. Okay, it cannot be a screenshot. That's same as photograph, taking photo. Document that have fingers. Some people, they pick the document and then they snap, and there's can't do that. Okay, now passport size photograph is no longer required, because when you have passport, it should be shown that there. If you have complete Australian education qualification, please submit to applications at aims.org.au via my equal system, where its option is available. Check your university website for more information. So if you are conducting your qualification and study in Australia as to become a medical lab scientist, you should know about this. Okay, now obviously if you're not studying in Australia, that's another case. The application form guideline that we were going to go through with you guys as for the detail in this video. AIMS is recognized as a assessing authority for people seeking immigration to Australia for the following occupations. So if you want to be a medical lab scientist, AIMS code 234611, or a specialization in IVF embryologist. Now that's the big topic, and it's actually a very good career to be in, because in the current society, there's a lot of people require IVF as well. You may be shocked how many people actually require IVF. A medical lab technician. Now, technician is one level lower than the scientist, but is still considered a very good career. A pathology collector. Now, that's people collecting all the human bloods and things like that. Now, global talent independent. Now, interesting. I got attracted to when they have this on AIMS website. So, but when I read it carefully, let's read it. AIMS is pleased to acknowledge the Australian government's effort to encourage a highly skilled and talented professional to migrate to Australia with the Global Talent Independent Program. Very good. Now, let's read on. But we regret that AIMS is unable to offer distinguished talent sponsorship nomination. Oh gosh, so they cannot do it. AIMS will not be the nominator for GTI. So why bother putting it on the website? Probably there has been a lot of people asking for it, but if you cannot provide the service, just don't have it. You don't have to announce it on the website. Anyhow, tell me about the scientists, and they probably have that scientific thinking in their head. However, let's read on. Employer request skill assessment. AIMS also provide qualification assessment of a staff employer. So that's for all your employment experiences. Now, certified copy of supporting documents is no longer required for both employer assessment and migration assessment. So as far as what that means is, all they want is color scanned copies, and as long as it's color scanned, certification is not required anymore. So there's no more required for just of a piece certification, things like that. So as long as the documentation are all in color. Okay, translation of your supporting documents. For supporting documents that in language other than English, obviously you need to be translated, and the preferred translation is the NATI translation. Okay, now find out from nati.com.au for your languages. For translation, you can actually find it out. PTE, now obviously PTE is taking a different approach, where they will send their official result to the skill assessing authority. So you must submit your hard copy test report with your application, but you must also submit your online report. Now, I don't know why you need to duplicate that. Probably people can actually fraudulently copy whatever, Photoshop, things like that, so they want to verify that. So, but if they can get the online report through PTE, why bother send another physical copy? Anyway, okay, now we're gonna go through the actual detail of how your qualification can be assessed. So obviously we have been through these four type of different occupation that AIMS can assess with. Now, detail here has step 1 until step 15. Now, we're going to go through the actual guideline to actually read every single one out of it. Now, from what I can see, because qualification-wise, if we look at skill assessing authorities, as long as the qualification require to actually graduate, complete in the discipline, the qualification is deemed to be 4 years of full-time studies. Generally, you don't require any post-graduation work experiences in order to get your skill assessment to be positive. Okay, so that's one way to go, because if you think about it, engineers And the what else? Some other nurses and things. They don't require to have that work experience after graduation, because they do have enough practices, interns during the course of their study. So that's what it is. So let's read on the actual guideline. Now, if you can see that in the middle, I'm gonna move that. Okay, now that's better. Application for skill assessment, medical lab scientists and medical technicians. Okay, overview. I'm gonna dodge that because we have just done an overview of what medical lab scientists and medical no, there's a little bit of differences. So scientists are normally employed in the diagnostic laboratory, clinical laboratories, and we work in the field of lab medicine, conduct medical lab tests, blood fluid, tissues, and other knowledge and methodologies. Scientists discipline assist clinicians in diagnosis, treatments, and prevention of human disease. So that's what the scientists do, the medical lab scientists. Now, medical lab technicians. So what do they do? Perform and assist laboratory tests on blood fluid, tissues, and medical and other pathology laboratory under direction of medical lab scientists. So basically, a medical lab technician works for the medical lab scientist. So the scientist is the boss. Here we go. Okay, that's the difference there. Now, education in Australia. So primary education qualification of medical lab scientist in Australia is a 3 or 4 year degree in medical lab science and laboratory medicine, accredited by AIMS. Graduates of these degrees are classified as medical lab scientists and eligible for graduate membership of AIMS. So obviously you want to find out, let me click on that so we can actually see those courses out there. So that's what I said, that basically meant as long as you graduate and complete your courses, you're deemed to be skill set positive of medical lab scientist. Now, why did they say 3 or 4 years? Because some university does provide trimesters, so you can actually study trimesters, 3 semesters in 1 year, and some just do 2. So if you do 2, you need to go for 4 years. If you do 3 per year, you can actually graduate within 3 years. Now, employment in Australia. Now this is, I read through many times. I don't understand why they put this here, because what it reads is, as most countries, the professional require evidence of appropriate level of education and practical experience. Now that's no-brainer, of course, yes. And there is no statutory registration license of medical lab scientists in Australia. Wow, okay, right. So, and what? Okay, so what it reads on, successful migrating Australian medical lab scientist or medical lab technician is no guarantee for employment in Australia for the job. Right, so why are you telling us in the guideline? I don't understand that. So anyway, I'm just reading through some official document coming from different sectors. It does sound funny. Anyway, that's just my comment. Probably some people will think, well, that's appropriate, but from my point of view is this whole 2 sentences is no use. Why are you telling us there's no registration? All right, no, then you don't have to tell us, and you don't guarantee for job. All right, I understand. No university guarantee for job once you graduate as well. Anyway, probably too many scientists going for AIMS to ask for jobs. Don't know why. Anyway, the assessment process. Now, AIMS can provide only applying for skill assessment. The skill and qualification will be assessed by AIMS, pretty obvious, to determine whether applicant is suitable for work as medical lab scientist or medical lab technician. AIMS will assess an applicant as suitable or not suitable for the nomination against the requirement it has established. The applicant should keep a certified copy of their skill assessment and all relevant for their own records. That's pretty redundant, not pretty obvious. You can have a negative and you can have a positive result. Now, let's go on. They will take about 8 weeks to 10 weeks for the processing. We are able to offer express our priority, positive result, and fees. We'll go to fees and things. Amendment of assessment letter, review, appeal. You can do all that. So stage one. Now, stage one. I think that's pretty easy. You need to have a acceptable science degree and 2 years of full-time postgraduate professional experience in diagnostic medical laboratory within the 5 years period immediately prior to applying for assessment will usually assess as eligible to sit the examinations. Okay, that's a little bit complicated. So basically what it says is that you need to have the degree and you need to have 2 years of full-time or part-time equivalent postgraduate professional experience. Now that's interesting because generally a 4-year courses does not require to have a work experience to be assessed as the under the skill assessments. Now they are telling us that you need to have at least 2 years. Now you see, if you study in Australia, you'd get 2 years of study, post-study work. Now, how can you ensure that you can actually get that 2 years fully in there? That's another hard part. That's probably why there's a lot of people cannot actually get skill assessment. Now, so you need to be very good. So in order you finish your 485 visa, you need to be sponsored by your employer, possibly to extend your visa. Now, let's move back a little bit. It says it is the responsibility of the prospect applicant who hold AIMS accredited degree to ensure that unit comply to AIMS accredited pathway in order to gain assessment of medical lab scientists or professional membership of AIMS. These requirements are stated in AIMS accredited report held by university. Prospective applicants should be contacting the program coordinator. So again, so what does that mean? It means, do you still need 2 years of work experience? Let's read on, okay? An acceptable science degree is AQF level 7 or 8. Now that's pretty sure. Most of the courses provided by the Australian University will have that standard there, which have subject of that meet the following minimum. So all these subject down there, I'm not going to read all that. And that's all the subjects that you're required to go through. Pharmacy and biotech degree are not normally acceptable degree for some units. Okay, so if you touch on those one, they don't like it. And then you go into stage 2. Now stage 2, that the AIMS professional examination. Now this is, they're actually gonna examine you. Okay, so applicant assessed at stage 1 as eligible may apply to sit for professional examination. This is a written short answer paper of 3 hours. Wow, that's hard. Conducted twice a year, March and September. So make sure if you graduate from end of the year, you gotta take the test in March. If you graduate in the mid-year, you gotta take the test in September. Okay, and that's all how the marks will actually show. The examination is set level expected professional medical lab scientists for with at least 2 years post-grad experiences. So again, when it reiterates, that will basically meant after you graduated, you will have to have 2 years of work experience as a medical lab scientist, and then you have to have your visa long enough, valid enough to take the examinations. Now, how would a graduate get a visa that long? Anyhow, don't know, because that's just anyway. All sections are compulsory. You need to pass at least 50%. Applicant who is successful examination will be classified as medical lab scientist. Now that's probably will be easier if you do medical lab technician. That's probably a reason how you can actually migrate through that kind of occupation. Or perhaps if you want to actually move into medical lab scientist, you have to achieve really good and make sure at the post-study work right visa, you actually can gain sponsorship from the relevant employer. Okay, now move on. I'm gonna go through the detail of examination. Compulsory requirement of applicant. All documents must be correctly certified. So that's when you take the test. So that's passport and things like ID. Please note that AIMS will not accept any other form of certification, so it has to be just the piece or notary public. So you need to have your photos, English assessments, that's IELTS. You need to have overall band of 7 or higher. Individual band score may be below 7, providing overall is 7. Okay, that's easy. Now PTE 65 or higher. Tertiary education documents. That's your completion letter, your graduation certificate, your transcript and things. Syllabus. Now that's very interesting. Now you need to go through that accredited. We will go through that accredited degrees there together. If you have a PhD, so I can see that studying medical lab scientist, you probably after you graduate from a bachelor, you might want to move on into a master degree, and while conducting some work with employments, you also study masters, and once you finish master, you apply for 485, and then you probably have enough time to actually accrue that post work experiences of 2 years, 24 months. Professional employment, now that has to be within the last 10 years, so you cannot come you can actually come to AIMS and say, look, I got 3 years of experiences 7 or 8 years ago. That's fine. Okay, but if it's got to be more than 10 years ago, no, that won't be accepted. So employer verification letter. Now I'm not going to go through that detail there, because I've done a video on that one, how the work reference letter should be. So anyway, you can actually see this guideline yourself. You can Google, find this, and translation if you require, and how you can post it. Now that's all the guideline. Now let's look at the forms. Form is quite clear, where you put your name, date of birth, contact detail, address, telephone number, whether you have a previous skill assessment result, whether you have agent or representative. So things like this is quite complicated. Sometimes a agent or representative is required. Now you also need to provide your English test. Okay, when did you take it? Do you have a certified copy? And when did you study your primary and secondary education? I'm not too sure why they need that. Anyway, tertiary, that's for your bachelor or above. Okay, so that you need to complete all that forms, and your employment again. So they reiterate all that detail there, and you need to get your employer to complete that part there. And if you do require more of the employment, you may want to make more copies. Do you have any membership of professional organizations? And payment. Now payment, I think is was 900 something. We'll go through that one there right now. So payment is 990 Australian dollars. Does that include the examination? No, it doesn't. The examination alone is another $880. So it's quite expensive. But looking at the career, do you actually see that there? Okay, I'm actually blocking that out. So 990, and the examination is 880 there. Finally, let's move on to the accredited program. So there's a CQU. They provide a Bachelor of Medical Lab Science, and Charles Darwin. That's in regional area where you can actually get possibly 4 years of post-study work rights. Okay, Charlestown University, Curtin in Perth, Fiji. Now that's not in Australia, obvious. Griffith. Now whether this is actually in Gold Coast, if that's in Gold Coast, then that will be counted as regional. So we can find that out later. QT, MIT, University of South Australia, University of Tasmania, and University of Western Australia. Formally accredited, so that means it's not current anymore. So there's only these few for your option if you wanted to study in Australia to become a medical lab scientist. Now, do you think it's attractive? I think the actual occupation does have a very good career. It's just the pathway once you graduated. How do you accrue that 2 years of work experience? So my proposed thinking and plan, unless you study in regional like in Darwin or in Adelaide, you can get 3 or 4 years of postgraduate work visa. Otherwise, you might want to continue on with a master degree. So while you study master, you can accrue your work experiences, and once you finish the master, you have that another 2 years of work rights. Then you actually get that 2 years of post graduate employment in order to get your skill assessed and migrate to Australia. So what do you think? Leave a comment right down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.